Imagine a world wherein you don't have to ever go to a gasoline station again. All you have to do is park your car in your garage, charge it up just like this, and the first thing you do in the morning is simply unplug this charger, cover this port right here, and cover the whole cover. That's what you can do when you own this car right here. This is the Nissan Leaf electric vehicle. Today I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. Apparently the Nissan Leaf is an electric motor right here which can give you up to 311 kilometers of range according to Nissan. But real world test, at least for me, gives me around 280 to 290 kilometers. Also, the charging part, this is the interesting part about it. You just hold a button on your key or inside the car. This cover right here pops up and you have two ports right here. The orange port for your slow charger, so you can charge this in 18.5 hours at home with a regular socket. Or if you get an optional wall box, which costs around 200,000 pesos, you can charge this up in 7.5 hours, making your daily charge or your nightly charge a breeze. You just have to sleep, and when you wake up, this car from low battery is already 100%. Alternatively, there's this bigger port right here which takes a CHAdeMO plug, and this one can charge a car from low battery to 80% in only 40 minutes. Power-wise, you get 150 horsepower and 320 newton meters of torque. Because you get instant torque, this car can go from 0 to 100 in only 7.9 seconds. Before we talk about the exterior, we have to note that just before we filmed this video, Nissan Philippines just released the facelifted version of this car. So it's only slightly different and mostly just cosmetic. But anyway, let's talk about this particular test unit right here. Up front, of course, you don't have a grille anymore. It's just a flat panel right here with a lot of these beautiful blue crystals on it because, well, you don't really need airflow anymore. It's more aerodynamic as well, just like that. I love the shape of this front area of the Nissan Leaf because it's very triangular. It really kind of like cuts into wind, increasing your fuel economy or battery economy. You get projector headlamps, LED DRLs, and also fog lamps down below. Towards the side of the car, you have 155 millimeters of ground clearance, 16-inch rims, and a blacked out roof. Plus, just to remind everyone that you have an EV and you love the environment, you get a zero emission badge right there below. Towards the back, you can really appreciate the two-toneness of the Nissan Leaf, especially in this pearl white color. The contrast between the black chrome here by the sill and also by the spoiler just contrasts really well with the white paint. Anyway, right here at the back, you get LED tail lamps. They're V-shaped too, which is pretty good, very Nissan. And down below, you even have more blueness for your diffuser for that EV touch. Plus these two slits as your reflectors. Open up this tailgate and space is actually pretty good and also expandable by folding those rear seats 60/40. You do not, however, have a false floor anymore. The batteries of the Nissan Leaf is under the floors. Now you're gonna ask me, wait a minute, the batteries are under the floor, the ground clearance is only 155 millimeters. How can this be practical in Manila, especially with our floods? Well, here's the thing. In theory, electric cars can weigh a little bit better compared to their internal combustion engine counterparts because the batteries are sealed. So while I don't have the exact weighting depth of the Nissan Leaf, you'll be sure that if you do wade through floods, nothing bad's gonna happen to you. You will not get electrocuted. Now here inside the Nissan Leaf, we check the door. Not bad, actually. That sounds pretty okay. The interior of this car is a little bit reminiscent of a Nissan Almera, so it is very Nissan. There are a lot of hard-touch plastics on it though, but that's not really the point of this car. You do, however, get some of these soft-touch leather, but they're not the thickest. On the middle parts of the dashboard and over here at the side of the doors, there's also some blue stitching over there as well as on your seats. Plus this very interesting pattern just by this panel above the glove box. The steering wheel is multifunction, also with that blue stitching, and you also get adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, autonomous emergency braking, among others. You also have an instrument cluster that is partly analog, only on the right, and you have a screen over there at the left. Towards the center of everything is an 8-inch touchscreen with a 360 around view monitor, also pretty clear, and comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have this very futuristic shifter, rather easy to use, don't worry about it. You also have an eco button, e-pedal button, and two tiny cup holders right here. Now here at the back, check the door. That sounds pretty good, actually. Back here, the first thing you'll notice is just how comfortable these seats are. Thigh support is a little bit limited, but the cushiness of the seats and the backrest, including the slight built-in lumbar support, simply excellent. I love it. What I did notice though is that the floor seems to be a little bit higher than usual because again the batteries are there, so you can't really like angle your legs 90 degrees. Not a big problem, you easily just stretch out back here because legroom is pretty good and so is headroom. Seating 3 people in this car is slightly possible if it's for shorter journeys because although the car is a little bit on the narrow side, this hump by the middle is triangular, which is a brilliant idea. More manufacturers should do this, so this gives you a little bit more feet room. One thing I do wish for though is for Nissan to have added a little bit more light in here because it does feel a little bit claustrophobic, especially because of this solid pillar right here. Don't worry about safety though, because not only do you get ISOFIX tethers, but you also get airbags here at the back since you have 6 airbags all around the car. Now we drive the Nissan Leaf EV, and driving this is incredibly comfortable because of its e-pedal technology. So what e-pedal is basically one pedal driving. That means you don't really need to step on your brake anymore. Once you let off your gas, it'll automatically decelerate for you. And it can even come to a complete stop, which is what differentiates e-pedal in this one from the e-pedal step, which I showed in the Nissan Kicks video. Anyway, using e-pedal, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, you can comfortably drive using one pedal alone. Now, you might say that, what's the purpose of that? In shorter journeys, you won't really feel it, but when you're going long journeys, it kind of takes away that fatigue of having to like kind of shift between pedals, between the gas and the brake pedal. It just makes your calves a little bit more relaxed, and that's something I'm learning to like with this car. Now, just by leaving this car into the normal drive mode, the regenerative braking is already strong enough, but there's even a B mode which increases your regenerative braking even further. That way you slow down even faster and while you recuperate a little bit more energy. If you do not like to use e-pedal, well, you can easily turn it off as well just by hitting the e-pedal button here by the center. If you leave this car in normal mode and you just step on it, my gosh, it really kicks you back to your seat. Now, I even dare say that it has a similar acceleration feel as that of a Nissan GT-R. Yes, however, the difference is that there is that initial acceleration that you get with this one that's incredibly strong, and then it immediately tapers off, unlike the GT-R, which is sustained. I know, crazy to compare the two cars. I don't know if is it because the Nissan Leaf doesn't produce any engine noise, but as you're driving alone, you can really hear a lot of the road noise. It could be coming from these Toranza tires, which isn't exactly the quietest out there, but as it is right now with this test unit, yeah, road noise is very apparent. Steering is really light too and definitely perfect for the city, and so is your visibility because you have these quarter panels right here, so you really see everything. Then when you're backing up or parking, you also have that 360 around view monitor, so Nissan really helps you park with this car. Speaking of parking this car, if you do put the car into reverse, there is this noise, this artificial sound. It's like beeping sounds, like spaceship noises that the car makes to alert pedestrians, but just in case you really want to turn it off, there's also a button just to your left which you can hit and it will turn off that sound. Driving this more inside the city, and you can really feel that the EVs are perfect for the city because, well, during your stop and go traffic or if you're idling for a long time, there's no real idle for an EV. So in those times that you are just seated at a traffic light, it's pretty much only your air conditioning system that consumes a lot of power. So this is perfect for anyone who lives in Manila. And after all, you have a range of around 280, 290 kilometers. So unless you're someone who goes to like Baguio or Tagaytay multiple times a day, and Baguio probably like once a day, the range in this car is honestly more than enough. And I doubt you're gonna have any range anxiety, especially if you live in the NCR. Now that we're here on the highway, I was expecting the Nissan Leaf to be a lot louder, especially since I could already hear a lot of tire noise inside the city at slower speeds. But right now we are going like 60 here on the Skyway, and it's surprisingly still quiet in here. I think the road noise is slightly overruled by some of the wind noise that does enter into the cabin, but it's really not too much. And one more surprising thing about this is that now I'm going 60, and if I want to go 70, I just step on it. Okay, that goes up really fast. I'd like to accelerate a little bit more, but I am bottlenecked by the speed limit right here, so please do bear with me. Also, in terms of comfort, the Nissan Leaf is very comfortable. The way it deals with bumps and potholes, it just soaks it up pretty well. It's not exactly confidence-inspiring in corners, so that is a trade-off for that because, well, the suspension is really soft. And despite you having all of that heavy battery packed down below on the floor, well, you get somewhat of a low center of gravity feel. It feels and rolls in the same way a body-on-frame SUV would. That sensation, at least, wherein the chassis or the lower part of the car kind of stays in place, but the upper parts of the car, wherein your torso would be, kind of just rolls into that corner. We've seen that the Nissan Leaf is an incredibly practical car, especially if you always drive in the city, and again, you never have to go fill up at a gasoline station again. But at 2.798 million pesos, despite all the fuel savings, it's honestly quite hard to justify a car this small, even though it is an electric vehicle. However, there is a law that's about to be passed. In fact, it has been passed, and we're just waiting for the implementing rules and regulations that could significantly bring down the price of the Nissan Leaf. I've asked around in a couple of Nissan dealers, and they claim that you can get this car for below 2 million pesos once that law comes into play. And at that price, below 2 million pesos, man, the Nissan Leaf is one amazing car that I surely would want to have.